Hello and welcome to the third episode of Streets to Summits. So, this episode is kind of less structured, and I did a pretty bad job of preparing for this episode. But I don't want to, how do you say, drop this consistency. I want to stay consistent. I want to keep putting in the work, and I thought that I'm slightly less prepared, but I'm still gonna try to do my best to make, an interesting episode. And basically, as usual, I'd like to start an episode with like basically what I've did, the previous week and such. And honestly, nothing really interesting happened this past week. Honestly, the only thing that I've done, what was new to me was I basically for the first time, I went to, well, this was like technically my second time, but I went to, there was a rally going on, and, near where I live, and I got invited to check it out, and I decided to go. So basically, uh, we've done a tiny bit of a dick move actually, because the tickets were quite expensive. It was, 15 euros per person. So before the roads closed, basically we just drove to the ladies that were, checking tickets and selling tickets, and we just said that we were going home. So it was at first it was like kind of an awkward conversation, and I thought that it will not go, but one lady asked another lady, what to do, like they're going home, and the other one just said, go. So we did. So we got ourselves some free passes, but honestly, 15 euros to watch rally is quite expensive, considering that where I live, this was like the most expensive rally. So we saved a bit of money, but honestly, we got we found a spot which was like a decent, it was like one hill and then basically like almost like a ramp, and but it was a straight line, and then you could see further on like in the fields, the cars going by, but it wasn't like a big ramp. Quite a few cars got some air, but like not a lot of it. The speeds weren't that big, honestly. So it was like, I don't know, like a good hangout. Just to basically just sit down somewhere in the field with a couple of my friends and basically, just look at some cars. So it wasn't like, really interesting, but considering that I could have been just sitting at home or, going there, I don't regret going. But honestly, it wasn't really anything special. It was a quiet, I don't want to like say low tier rally because, well, I'm comparing it to WRC, but WRC is like, like if I'm not mistaken, like top of the top when it comes to rally. So I I shouldn't be comparing these two things, but yeah, it wasn't exactly too interesting, honestly. And basically, that's about it for the past week. Nothing else really interesting. I had some ideas to maybe go somewhere, do something, and as usual, I either got lazy or found some other excuse to not go. Most of the time, I got lazy. But basically, like today, I guess I want to talk about like basically maybe like a bucket list. And I was thinking about like making an actual bucket list of places I'd like to travel and things I would like to do, and maybe try to as time goes on like do these things. But basically, places I'd love to travel to and things I would love to do. So basically, I would love to visit. I don't know why. Like when it comes to like for example Europe, I don't know why, but I would love to visit Italy. Out of like all of the European countries, I really like, like from the photos I've seen, like I really like Italian cities. They like it seems like the architecture is really beautiful. I don't know why. Like I know like, like no words, maybe a couple of words in Italian, but for some reason like the Italian, even the language, like I like the flow of it. I like, just the way it sounds, and I even like, I actually like quite enjoyed watching an Italian movie in Italian with English subs, and actually quite enjoyed it, doing that, and I think I'm gonna do it again. But basically, I love the way Italy looks, Italian people, and I would love to try real Italian pizza. That would be great. I like pizza, I like it a lot. For some reason, where I live, it's really expensive, so I haven't eaten a pizza in a while, but I think I'm gonna, make one at home. But for some reason, yeah, when it comes when it comes to traveling Europe, I'd say Italy is probably in the first place. And then I don't know. I'd like to, like each and every country has something to offer. And I was actually thinking about it would be interesting to, interesting videos to make to like basically like try to find out like maybe celebrations. I'd say I wanted to say events, but like celebrations, like something like, for example, Germany has Oktoberfest, and like other countries have things, that they celebrate. And I thought it would be really interesting, to maybe go to Germany and, just experience Oktoberfest. Even though I don't drink beer, I hate the taste of it. But like, going to Oktoberfest, going to like, let's say Poland, like I honestly I don't even know like Poland, like what like what things they celebrate, but I have no doubt that they actually do that. So it would be interesting, to experience that. Or for example, Spain, um, all of the stuff with running with the bulls and such. It's kind of cruel for the bulls, especially the thing where I don't know how it's called. Like it's not a stadium or something, but like basically there's like a matador in a pit and there's a bull, and the matador either keeps stabbing the bull or throwing something like spears at the bull, which yeah, that is no, that's I find that really cruel and not cool, but like it would be really interesting to to experience the whole thing, running with the bulls and the whole celebration and the event itself. And I'd say it would be really, really, really cool. Now, when it comes to traveling, again, I would just like to go to mountains. So basically, all of the countries that have Alps. Maybe, I actually, I forgot in what country is the Matterhorn? Matterhorn? I don't know how to properly say it, but that seems like an incredibly difficult mountain to climb. But I'd say if I, went to a couple more mountains, got more experience, and then went to Matterhorn and got myself, a good guide, I'd say I could do it. Maybe I couldn't. I'm changing my mind. I would probably need a lot of experience because, yeah, I'm changing my mind because right now I'm like seeing images in my mind of the videos I've watched of people climbing Matterhorn. It's actually quite insane. So, maybe climbing a couple of mountains wouldn't be enough experience. I'd say I would need maybe a couple of years of climbing and then getting a good guide to do that like safely and properly. Because, yeah, Matterhorn is no joke. But what seems easier than Matterhorn is Mont Blanc, which, yeah, is the highest peak in Western Europe, which I would love to climb. And honestly, it's a really, like, it's a long hike. It's a long climb to the peak, but I don't know how technical it is. It doesn't seem like it is like you need like skills and everything, and you need. I'm pretty sure there are parts where you really like there's you really need crampons, but I'd say it's like doable before Matterhorn. So yeah, I would love to do that. Now, when it comes to Europe, there's like I would love to just go back and forth and front to back and right to left through Europe. But when it comes to, let's say, outside Europe, I don't even know. The first thing that comes to my mind, and for the long time, for a really long time, I really wanted to visit Australia. I don't know why, but it seems like, you know, Australian people and, the coasts and surfing and I probably would love to visit both Australia and New Zealand. I'd say New Zealand is more beautiful as a country, especially when it comes to nature, because, well, Australia, it's just, I don't want to talk smack, but it's basically like a very large piece of just sand and hot weather and just, it's like, I don't want to say that it's a desert, but it's something along those lines. So yeah, probably Australia, New Zealand. When it comes to Asia, I don't even know. I don't know much about Asia. Um, Honestly, it would be incredibly fun to go to like maybe Thailand, rent some bikes, and just go on a trip with a bike across Thailand or something, or maybe Vietnam, something like that. So that would be interesting. When it comes to United States and North America, I don't know. You know, like, okay, Canada. Like, I don't want to get political on this podcast, but it seems like things are really weird in North America, in the United States, in Canada, and maybe I'd like to pass on North America, I'd say. Or maybe I'm just, watching, the wrong stuff on the internet and I'm getting served the propaganda or something. But it seems like maybe right now, at this day and age, I would skip North America, I'd say. Now, when it comes to, you know, South America, this is where things get interesting because, again, I know very little about South America, but sorry about that. But it would be really interesting to visit, I'd say, Brazil and just maybe see, like, I don't want to go sightseeing, on the bad places, but maybe seeing the favelas would be interesting. There's very high chances probably would be of me getting stabbed or hurt or things getting stolen from me. But it would be interesting to see, not always just go after the good things, but and see, like famous places and such. But I'd say it would be interesting to see, how just the reality of how some people live. When it comes to other places in South America, actually, I don't even know many countries in South America. Actually, my coworker is living in Chile right now. Forgot about that. But yeah, I'd say I would love to. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I'm talking about traveling, but things that I would love to do. And when it comes to things that I'd love to do, it's basically, um, mainly like snowboarding and adventure. You know, like I don't know, like I would like to like experience like like at least like a couple or 3 days of just maybe going to a resort and just snowboarding. Because I really like snowboarding, but I've never even been to like a track or a resort. Most of the winters I would just grab my snowboard and just jump on a hill somewhere nearby my home and just do that basically. So I'd say snowboarding is at the top of the list. And from the top of my mind, it's difficult to say, the things that I'd like to do because there's actually a lot. But basically anything that, that could get my heart rate a tiny bit higher and something new and basically, um just go on adventures basically. Maybe jump into a kayak and go down the river or like do any sort of that stuff. There are a couple of things where I would draw the line and I like it's a definite no. For example, cave diving. I honestly, looking at the people who do it and looking at the footage, and I've watched and binge watched so many videos of like cave diving going wrong that this is probably one of those things where I hope that I won't even get the chance to do it, because there seems like it's really interesting. It seems like, to be in a cave and the water and diving and exploring, but dude, like the amount of things that can go wrong, it's so large that honestly, yeah, this is where I'd say that never. Even like caving, I'm a pretty big guy and I am really claustrophobic, so cave diving or just caving in general, this is where I would say that um definitely no. But yeah. Um what else? I don't want to, just basically, sit in silence thinking about the things I would love to do, but yeah, basically just go on adventures. Today's episode is gonna be a tiny bit shorter, and the last thing I have in mind is, what continent would you like to live in? Now, let's say for the rest of my life I have to stay in one single continent. Now, it's really difficult to say because I've never been anywhere out of Europe. Europe is the only continent I have ever been, and honestly, it's difficult to say because Europe is very diverse. There's different countries, different languages, different, what's the word that I'm looking for? Customs. Wait, I think it's called customs. I forgot. But traditions. That's the word that I was looking for. Traditions. So, yeah. When it comes to, for example, okay, North America, United States. Yes, United States are massive, and basically, if you want snow, you have snow. If you want to see a desert, you can see a desert. If you want to see a canyon, you also have that in one country, basically. But I don't know, like, Europe seems more fun. Now, when it comes to South America, it's like, yeah, again, I know little about South America, but thinking about like actually living for the rest of my life somewhere outside Europe, I don't really see that happening, honestly. Um, so yeah, I would definitely stick to Europe. My answer could change, throughout the years as I travel more, I hope. And that answer could change, but for now it seems like there's no better place to be than Europe. Maybe there was no better place to be than Europe, maybe let's say 15 years ago. Now, I'd say, again, don't want to get political, I'd say Europe is not moving forward, I'd say it's moving backward. And it feels like um, European people are in the second place for European, for the European government. But this is not a politics show again, so yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than Europe if I had to choose, for the rest of my life. So today's episode is quite shorter than the previous ones, but again, I am underprepared today, but I'm still trying to be consistent. So it's still fun, to sit down and talk for a bit, even though it's maybe, not as good as the previous episodes. But I'm gonna say that it's gonna be it for today. You can visit the main channel, Perevia, because all of the cool stuff is happening there. You can visit perevia.store, get yourself some clothing, or at least, look, and maybe you'll see something that you would like. So that's gonna be it for today's episode. If anyone watched it, thank you for watching, and see you next time.